Good morning, everyone. Just waiting for the presenter rights. Presenter, then we can start. Cargo work
Good morning,
class.
sir.
Good morning, ji, good morning. Cargo work class. And to start, I have lined up theory behind Loadicator to start. Then, if we have the time, we'll move on to another topic. But right now, we'll start with theory behind Loadicator. So, just waiting for presenter rights so that we can share screen. Then we can talk about it. I'm sure you've heard about the Loadicator, you have used it, maybe as duty officer in conjunction or under the supervision or under the guidance of chief officer. You must have used the Loadicator, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it is not something which is out of the world, you have used it. So, Saurabh, since you say yes, did you find it useful practically?
Yes, sir. It was very useful, sir.
Very useful. So, that is good. And you will be now using it, of course, extensively as chief officer. So, this is how the story is. The background, still waiting for presenter rights. Okay, in the meanwhile, at least we can talk about it. As soon as the shared screen is available, I'll share it. Now, why is the requirement there for Loadicator? What is which regulation or which convention talks about necessity of Loadicator on board? Or I rephrase, what can a Loadicator do? It is a loading instrument, agreed. But what is the purpose? What can it perform among many functions which you may have used? What is the main function of the Loadicator? And also, why is it required? Under which convention? Any idea or any volunteer to interact? I think I'll have to pass this on to WhatsApp because I cannot see the rights for presentation. Give me a minute, let me pass it on the WhatsApp also. So, what can be the functions of Loadicator? Since you have used it, maybe along with chief officer, what functions can it perform? And under what convention is it required? It is a necessity.
So, so
Haji.
it's a SOLAS requirement, sir.
Very good, very good. SOLAS requirement, yes, absolutely. Can you recall which chapter?
So, chapter 12.
Chapter 12, okay. So I'll put it on the WhatsApp also for the sharing of screen. Let me see whenever it can come. Ah, okay. You have rightly said it is something to do with SOLAS, you know, chapter 12. Okay.
सर ये लोड लाइन कन्वेंशन के अंदर नहीं आना चाहिए
नहीं ये separate topic है under cargo work. It is a separate topic under cargo work. Obviously, as we are starting, we are not going to perform any Loadicator because we do not have software for that. What we are going to do is the theory behind it. The theory behind Loadicator, requirement, documentation, testing and records. That is our syllabus as far as Loadicator is concerned. In fact, it does not talk about Loadicator. The syllabus talks about loading instrument. So it has to be Loadicator. So as somebody has rightly remarked, rightly pointed out, it is a requirement by SOLAS chapter 12. And More categorically, SOLAS Chapter 12, Regulation 11 talks about a requirement of Loadicator. So, yeah, presenter आ गया कि नहीं? Not yet, not yet. Presenter writes not yet. I have also put it on the WhatsApp on your group. Let me see if they cite it. Is that possible to be seen on the WhatsApp, the chat, to have presenter rights? Just confirm. Your group, MP1. Okay, let us just wait for a few minutes. In the meanwhile, we can keep discussing about it so that not to waste time. Now, Chapter 12, Regulation 11 talks about bulk carriers 150 meter in length and upwards to be fitted, quote unquote, to be fitted with a loading instrument capable of providing information on hull girder shear stresses and bending moments. So, this is the requirement by SOLAS. Then there are some dates given inside the chapter as to when it should have been done, right? So, as far as bulk carriers 150 meter long and upwards, constructed before 1st July 1999, this has to be fitted immediately, not later than the date of first intermediate or periodical survey after 1 July 1990. So obviously those dates are past, this is only history now, but we must have a background. So bulk carriers 150 meter and upwards in length, they should have been fitted with a loading instrument before 1 July 1999. So how is the Loadicator actually? Is it analog or digital?
Digital, sir.
It could be both. You're right. Nowadays we use digital, but it could be both. As far as the regulation is concerned, it requires a loading instrument to be fitted on board, but it could be anyone, analog or digital. That is no problem. So that is the regulation, but as you rightly point out, in nowadays modern times, we only use digital ones because technological advancement has been made, so we only use digital ones. But if there is an analog one, it is allowed by regulation. It is perfectly fine as far as the regulation is concerned. For convenience, for technological advancement, of course, we use the digital one. But analog is also allowed by SOLAS Chapter 12. Okay. So how can you define a loadicator? A loading instrument which could be either analog or digital, and by which it can be quickly ascertain specific readouts for still water bending moments, shear forces, and still water torsional moments. And then it can also provide information regarding lateral loads, any load balance condition, and will not exceed the permissible values because that is pre-fed in the loadicator. So in case you just happen to exceed the permissible values, obviously you will get a red light or a pop-up that you are exceeding limits. Now the loadicator itself or the loading instrument itself will comprise both of hardware and software. Operational manual is provided to use for loading instrument, although by the time you start using it, you are already familiar, but it is a requirement by the chapter that the operational manual should be provided. Maybe I have no presenter rights. आपने कंफर्म नहीं किया. Can you just see in your WhatsApp that my chat shows requesting presenter rights?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can see, sir.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay जी, okay. Although recording is on. Recording is on. I have not submitted, so admin Saket must have started the recording. Let me see when you can cite this one. It is there in the chat box also of the Teams meeting. It is there on the WhatsApp. Let me just fine tune it. Maybe address it to a specific person. Now, one more thing is there regarding Loadicator. Tankers are also required to have on-board stability instrument, which is effective from 1st January 2016. Tankers also require this from 1st January 16, which is coming from MARPOL Annexure 1, Chapter 4, and IBC code and IGC codes. All three conventions have talked about providing an on-board stability instrument even for tankers, effective from 1st January 2016. So we can conclude all ships are required to have it. Because when it started, Chapter 12 bulk carriers, then tankers were included in 2016. Consequently, we can safely say all ships are required to have a loading instrument. Stability loading instrument, it is called technically, which is supposed to assist you for correct calculations and to point out if you are exceeding permissible shear force and bending moment limits, or maybe drafts which you have prefed. If you are exceeding that, that also will raise a red flag. Very handy instrument. It is like a friend for chief officer, and of course, slowly and slowly we have become used to it, and we are quite dependent on it. Can't see the presenter right even now. So maybe you can note down because this is still not come. The requirement for tankers is going like this. First of all, we say applicable from 1st January 2016 by MARPOL, IBC code and IGC code. Okay, now if ships are constructed on or after 1st January 16, then this has to be provided on delivery, at delivery. It has to be fitted at delivery, it should be there. If ships are constructed before 1st January 16, then at the first renewal survey, but no longer later than 1st January 21. So date already gone, we can safely assume even if you end up on a tanker on which these codes are applicable, MARPOL, IGC and IBC, you will find a loading instrument because this date is already gone. No later than 1st January 21, it says. Further, on-board stability instruments will be certified by RO, which is that the certificate or the compatibility will be ascertained and approved by the RO, which is a organization appointed by the flag state. So this instrument or this loadicator has to be approved by the flag state and certified. It is supposed to provide both intact and damage stability, which is acceptable. The standard is acceptable to the administration. So the respective administration or flag state or RO on his behalf can issue what is called a confirmation of compliance. They have tested it and they will issue a certificate of compliance for that instrument which is now being used as chief officer use on board. So it should carry a certificate of compliance. Confirmation of compliance, to be more technical, confirmation of compliance, which means it is complying with the requirements of the Loadicator as per SOLAS Chapter 12 for bulk carriers and for IBC, IGC and MARPOL the next 1 also it should be compliant. Okay, the good thing is that we are back. We got rights now the presentation, so we can start. I mean, we have already started, but now we can please share screen. So this is what we covered so far. Just to share screen. Now you will have to confirm that you can see the share screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we can see.
Okay, okay. This is what we have talked about. Requirement by SOLAS Chapter 12, Regulation 11. This we have already talked about. Maybe you want to note down, so I'm just going to stop for a minute if you want to note down. See, if you have a question on Loadicator, it is going to be maybe part B of the cargo work paper. You must address the issue why it is required, by what chapter, SOLAS Chapter 12, Regulation 11. You must mention that because that will exhibit that you have gone through the theory. So you must write it. Requirement is as per SOLAS Chapter 12, Regulation 11. Having done that, you can move on to say that Loadicator is a loading instrument which could be either analog or digital, by which you can ascertain SW, still water shear force, SWSF and SWBM. Any load or ballast conditions, with permissible values already prefed in the instrument, and this instrument will comprise both of hardware and software, and it will be accompanied by what is called an operational manual. Further, we had talked about this one, that requirements on board will also extend to all tankers from 1st January 16, which is coming from Marpol and Annexure 1, Chapter 4, IBC code and IGC code. All have been amended to include this, that you should have a onboard stability instrument. At this dates, as we talked, was ships constructed on or after 1st January 16. This instrument should be there on board at the time of delivery. If before 1st January 16, constructed before, then this should be placed on board at the first renewal survey. After 1st January
सर
16,
एक सेकंड स्लाइड ऊपर करना सर.
ऊपर करें, okay. It should be placed on board at the first renewal survey.
हाँ सर इधर. हो गया सर.
Okay, ji. It says that if the ships have been constructed before 1st January 16, then tankers की बात हो रही है at the first renewal survey on or after 1st January 16, but goes with a catch no later than 1st January 21. So that is why I'm saying we can safely assume that all this has been taken care of. We have passed that date, 1st January 21, so it should be there now on board every tanker also. After it has been installed, it should carry a stability, it should carry a certification from FLAC, from the administration, that this is both certified to be used, and will issue a document of approval. This could be done on behalf of the flag, which we are aware it could be done by the RO, recognized organization. Normally, it is the class. I will say normally because RO could be anyone recognized by the flag state, but mostly it is the class which is involved to be recognized as RO. So class can give a document of approval for the loading instrument, and then you are on. Then you have taken care. Okay. Obviously, the tankers under the purview of IBC and IGC codes have got certificate of fitness for carriage. Anybody worked on these kind of vessels which carry certificate of fitness for chemical tankers and gas carriers? You do have a certificate of fitness. So this is only the approval certificate for loading instrument is only a supplement to that. First of all, you should be having a certificate of fitness for chemical tanker and gas carriers. Then, to supplement it, you are also carrying a Loadicator with a certificate of approval. Therefore, it is only adding on to it. You cannot have a certificate of approval for Loadicator if you do not carry a certificate of fitness to carry chemical or gas carrier. So much so for the documentation, certification, etc. So a very important part is that we say we have a document of approval, but how will that be given? For which I need to know from you, is any one of you in this class involved or was involved with the chief officer testing the Loadicator? Testing of the Loadicator.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Since you say yes, can you recall how it was done? Just for interaction, it is not test of knowledge.
So basically, during the supply of the vessel, they are provide a testing condition for ships. Various testing condition is there. So we will just feed it and we will match it whether it is matching or not. If it is matching, then it is okay.
Okay, Saurabh.
सर पैरामीटर्स दिए होते हैं, जैसे कि बैलास्ट कंडीशन के लिए दिया हुआ है, लोडेड कंडीशन के लिए दिया हुआ है, एंड देन पार्शियली लोडेड. वो पैरामीटर्स डालते हैं एंड देन टेस्टिंग रिजल्ट आते हैं.
You may have different conditions, right? Partly loaded, fully loaded, part
Yes,
bunkers, bunkers.
Yes, sir.
right? But Saurabh is of the opinion that inside this hydrostatic particulars, you also have what is called a test condition. So as far as the interaction is concerned, Saurabh is of the opinion that the test condition can be fed into the Loadicator and match the results. Right? This is possible. That is agreed.
Yes, sir.
This is agreed. It is possible. 1 minute. So of course, one thing is there that maybe you will take a condition which is called test condition and then use it to test the Loadicator. Compare the results, right? So when we say compare results, what results are you going to compare? What kind of results? When we say to compare results, testing. See, you may have a test condition, but normally your hydrostatic particulars will contain different kind of conditions, which could be anyone. Could be full bunkers, part bunkers, full ballast, part ballast, partly loaded, fully loaded, etc. Example. So you may pick up any one of them, and feed this data inside the Loadicator, then compare the results of the Loadicator with the printed results in the particulars. If they are matching, then you are sure that the Loadicator is working fine. You get my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just a minute. I want to show you one example. I mean, the example of how you can do it. 1 minute.
सर ये क्लास रिकॉर्ड नहीं हो रही क्या?
क्या बात कर रहे हैं? मैंने देखा था उसने बोला रिकॉर्डिंग स्टार्टेड, ऐसा बोल रहा था वो इनिशियली।
मुझे तो दिख नहीं रही यहाँ पे रिकॉर्डिंग होते हुए। अगर आपको तो फोटो भेज दूँ आपको तो व्हाट्सएप पे।
देखो इतनी जल्दी में क्यों है? 2 मिनट तो
पूरी
रुक जा। जा रहा हूँ, 1 मिनट जा रहा हूँ उस पे, मेन स्क्रीन पे जा रहा हूँ। जस्ट गिव मी अ मिनट, लेट मी सी। गुड, यू हैव पॉइंटेड आउट इट शुड बी रिकॉर्डेड, should be recorded. That's not great. I want to press something and then we can almost start the recording also. No problem. Okay. अब आते हैं इस पे, दूसरे क्लास में भी recorded. ये देखो, you see the recording has started. ये बोला 11:32. आई हो रही है. Whoever was pointing it out, thanks for pointing, but recording is being done. So it says recording started. That's when your time, and also when you click, the only option is to stop recording. So recording is being done. ठीक है जी. Okay, regarding the test condition which we were talking about, please understand that we are just looking at an example from Hinche, from particular. So this is a condition. You're very familiar with. You're using the book. Condition number 4. It says departure, calculation of displacement, kg, stroke, CG, etc. Now, in this condition, he has given the various configurations of the distribution of fuel oil, ballast, everything is given. Something which you are using it day in and day out, and we in particulars, we are looking at condition number 4. So instead of going for a test condition, अगर आप ये condition अपनी loadicator में डाल दो, which is particulars of engine chip already fed, then everything you enter, like how it is entered here in the book, you enter in the loadicator. Diesel oil 73.5 in the 5 dB tank port. Example, HFO 46.4 in dB tank starboard, 5 dB tank starboard, etc. You go like this. Number 4 old में cargo डाल दो, number 2 old में, etc. You keep filling up, and then what you need to do is match these results. You need to match these results. You should end up with trim by stern, immersion at R perpendicular, immersion at FP, mean draft, draft at AP, draft at FP. अच्छा एक बात है, हिंशिप के ड्राफ्ट्स कहाँ पेंटेड है? Painting of draft marks as far as hinship is concerned is on what location? Okay, please remember, as far as hinship is concerned, the draft marks are painted at the perpendiculars. Just for reference. But
सर ये टेस्टिंग में सारी वैल्यूज डालनी होंगी क्या सर ऊपर वाली?
हाँ, वो तो डालनी पड़ेगी. I mean distribution of weights तो डालोगे ना सारे. Let us say you have selected condition number 4 for as test condition. Then you enter all these values inside the loadicator. Sara, everything. And then the end result should match here. जो result आएंगे वो ऐसे match होने चाहिए. Including these ones, which is KM, KG, GM solid, FS correction लगा दिया, corrected GM, सब कुछ match होना चाहिए. Maybe storage rate you can leave out. You're not really interested, but you will have to enter all this to get. And also this one come up. This is also pop up. This will also show.
तो सर नॉर्मली ये मैच होती है वैल्यूज टेस्ट में?
जी मैच होती है. अच्छा एक बात और बताता हूँ. Because you are going to start working as chief officer, and because you will be working on the loadicator of that ship which you have taken over as chief officer first time, it is a good idea to test it out so that you are confident about the loadicator. आप सबसे पहला काम यही करो, आप जाओ एक कंडीशन सिलेक्ट करो, मे बी नॉट द टेस्ट कंडीशन, and then enter everything and see that the results are matching, which will give you confidence, personal confidence in that Loadicator, since it is showing the same results as the approved hydrostatic particulars. So now you can gain confidence in the Loadicator itself. Must do it. You must do it. For every ship you join, definitely for a ship which you're working first time in the sense, maybe not first time as chief officer, but you're doing the ship first time, then you must check out the Loadicator to gain confidence in the instrument. As you have done it and if you see everything is good, results are matching, सब कुछ ठीक हो रहा है, तो आप क्या करेंगे, इसका प्रिंट आउट लेंगे with a clear indication which condition you are talking about. Take a printout, sign, stamp, and get the master to sign it, and keep it as evidence of having tested the Loadicator, which is going to be required. It is going to be required by the class surveyors, etc. when they come on board, maybe even PSC. They would like to see that you have tested the Loadicator. So this is one way to do it, and then you must document it by signing, stamping, and keeping a record. And of course, it has to be countersigned by master.
सर इसकी कुछ रिक्वायरमेंट है कितना टाइम में टेस्ट करना होता है?
हाँ आ रहे हैं उसके पे आ रहे हैं. That is our in our discussion.
सर अगर ये सही ना है, मतलब अगर मैच ना हो रही हो वैल्यू, तो क्या करना है?
Then you got to call technicians. Then you got to report it to the maker. Very little chance, but अगर ऐसा हो जाए, then you got to call for help, external help, because this is software problem. So you will call the makers. First of all, you will log it down and then call the maker to see what is going wrong.
इसमें
It has
क्लास को भी इन्फॉर्म करना पड़ेगा ना सर?
अच्छा एक बात है, पहले तो आप अपनी तरफ से ठीक करने की कोशिश करो. आई मीन अपनी तरफ से मतलब आपने टेक्नीशियन बुलाया, आपने मेकर बुलाया, पहले तो कोशिश करो. उसके बाद भी नहीं होगा, then you have to inform not only class, also the flag state. That will assume huge proportion.
और अगर हमने
Because
क्लास को फ्लैग को इन्फॉर्म करा तो इसका डिस्पेंसेशन भी लेना पड़ेगा?
अगर ऐसा होगा तो, बट नॉर्मली ये सब रेक्टिफाई हो जाता है. Then you are actually obtaining a dispensation for a non-working loading instrument on board, which is a no actually, which is a deviation from the requirement. Then you have to have a dispensation. क्या dispensation की बात हो रही है, कौन बोल रहा है? Very interesting dispensation. Who is saying so?
सर शुभम सिंगल.
Shubham, you are saying?
जी सर.
Okay, Shubham, it's not going to be easy. I will tell you why. Suppose such a thing does happen on a ship, and you have to ask for dispensation, which of course you will not do as chief officer. You will ask your master to get this dispensation done. He's going to report maybe to the DPA or whoever, and the DPA is going to approach the flag state for dispensation. Okay, चलो ये तो हो गया process. I can assure you, before giving you dispensation, the flag state would like to see कि इसके behalf पे तुम कैसे calculation करोगे. You have to prove that you are still good with it. Obviously, they will not stop you selling because that is going to cause commercial impact. So they will give you permission, they will give you dispensation, but at the same time, they would like you to exhibit that how will you do calculations required in lieu of the Loadicator which is not working. Then, so ये एक बड़ा काम हो गया, because we have got used to Loadicator now. It is not that these calculations cannot be done manually, they can be easily done. Using your stability particulars, they can be done. You can calculate even SFBM, जो करते हैं आप. It is part of your naval arc subject in phase 2. You can do it, but it is slightly tedious, lengthy, and of course we are out of touch. So इसकी dispensation इतने आराम से नहीं मिलेगी. You will have to prove that you are still good even without the Loadicator. Not on the subject, but I will tell you my experience. In 2011, I think, yeah, somewhere there was a CIC. You know what is a CIC? Concentrated Inspection Campaign of the port state.
Yes sir.
Yes.
Okay. That particular CIC was for the subject of fire alarm system. Fire alarm system. Okay. That was a CIC. And this CIC was to be undertaken. Our next port of call was somewhere in US West Coast, and this CIC was being undertaken, and we are sure that PSC is going to visit us. So After departure Panama Canal, approaching to Vancouver, Washington, the port of call, our fire alarm system for the accommodation block stopped working. अब CIC चल रही है और हमारा accommodation block का fire system ही isolated है, काम ही नहीं कर रहा fire alarm. There was one faulty part which was not available on board. ठीक है, वो तो पता लग गया था. अब इसके लिए we had to actually get a dispensation from Hong Kong flag state. जहाँ हमारा fire alarm system जो है वो काम नहीं कर रहा है. And we are going to US, जहाँ आप जानते हो क्या होगा, तो हमें एक dispensation दे दो. They immediately came back to say कि master, yours truly, has to now exhibit what is the RA carried out for dispensing away with the fire alarm system, and how are you going to work without fire alarm system for this voyage. So we had to actually devise a plan. We had to actually write to the flag state, which is Hong Kong, how we are going to keep manual fire rounds from hours of darkness and even during daytime, how we are going to correlate the manning of the accommodation block which was isolated for the purpose of keeping a fire patrol. तब जाके डिस्पेंसेशन मिली थी. आरए कैरी आउट हुआ, ये पूरा प्लान बना, इसको फॉरवर्ड किया गया हांगकांग मरीन डिपार्टमेंट को, देन दे अप्रूव्ड अ डिस्पेंसेशन. ये अलग बात है कि यूएस में वो पार्टी नहीं मिला, देन वी हैड टू आस्क फॉर एक्सटेंशन. चलो वो एक सेपरेट स्टोरी है. So this is how it goes. If your Loadicator is not working, one thing certain, that dispensation is always available to be applied for, but you will have to prove before dispensation, you will have to prove how you will work in lieu of the Loadicator with it not working. तो फिर मिल सकता है तुम्हें, if you can prove it correctly, which you will be able to do. See, lot of times you discuss कि यार ये SFBM ये क्या है, ये क्यों हमने कैलकुलेट करना मैन्युअली, Loadicator है. But these are one condition where Loadicator will not be useless, will not be useful because it is not working. Then you have to be aware of the facts and the system to be followed to be manually calculated. कहीं तो नॉलेज काम आएगी. हालांकि चांसेस बहुत कम है, लेकिन ऐसा हो सकता है. Okay, चलो. So this is what I had opened out to show you. You can select any condition. We had seen condition number 4. You can scroll down. You can go. If this is okay, you can go down to condition number 5 and maybe feed this one and again match the result. But you have to do only once. एक कर लोगे बहुत. One condition, if you have fed in everything, results are matching, including drafts, including the LCF calculation, and also this one, KM, KG, GM solid, everything matching, then you are confident that the Loadicator instrument is working correctly. And you can just preserve the results to show to anyone who comes that your Loadicator is effective. But that is what you need to prove.
सर ये वाली कंडीशन तो सिर्फ फ्रेंडशिप के लिए ही है ना?
हाँ, ये तो हिंशिप में ही है ऑब्वियसली. ये पर्टिकुलर जो हम आपके साथ शेयर कर रहा था मैं, दैट इज फॉर हिंशिप. इट इज नॉट जेनरिक, इट इज ओनली फॉर हिंशिप. I was opening it because this is one book which is you are familiar with, you are using it even in phase 1. हिंशिप की प्रॉब्लम तो है phase 1 में, isn't it? अच्छा, एक चीज याद रखना, आई रिमेम्बर नाउ, हिंशिप की किताब में एक प्रॉब्लम नंबर 83 है. हिंशिप में प्रॉब्लम नंबर 83 that talks about calculation of drafts and applicable condition with use of trim tables. क्वेश्चन नंबर 83. और ये क्वेश्चन पूछा जा चुका है एमएमडी एग्जाम में. जस्ट आई रिमेम्बर. So have a look at that and do work it out and be sure that you can do it. It was specifically mentioned in that MMD exam using trim tables, and then the whole question was question number 83. It was said in the question using trim tables, although actually speaking there were a few guys who worked out this question to calculate trim etc by LCB minus LCG formula, and they were right. उनका क्वेश्चन गलत नहीं हुआ, लेकिन उस क्वेश्चन में लिखा हुआ था using trim table. That is question number 83. So when you go through it, just have a quick look and be sure that you can do it. चलो ये तो याद आ गया. Sorry.
Yes sir, वो सेकंड पे भी आया हुआ सर.
सेकंड मिनट्स में आया है.
Yes sir, प्रीवियस ईयर के क्वेश्चंस में आया हुआ है सर.
ठीक है, आ सकता है. Because even in second mates, We do up to question number 85, 86 in InChip. तो आ सकता है. चलो, this is just by the way, it is not part of my subject. I just remembered. Okay, then we come to this part about documentation and testing of Loadicator, right? So what about documentation? Documents required. Documents required will be at least 3, definitely, which is class certificate for the Loadicator, which is the document of approval. This certificate is issued by class so that he is giving the details of the loading software also and hardware. Please remember, a loading instrument or a Loadicator is dedicated one. It is not supposed to be used for any purpose except calculation of load on Loadicator. You are aware of that, right? You cannot use it. You cannot load Excel files, Word documents on that Loadicator. That is a no-no. It is not allowed. This particular instrument is kept only for the purpose of calculation of load. I mean loading or discharging. And it carries a certificate from the class with the machine number. उसका पूरा आइडेंटिटी होता है उसके अंदर रिकॉर्ड में कि ये सॉफ्टवेयर का आइडेंटिटी ये है, हार्डवेयर की आइडेंटिटी मतलब ये है, स्क्रीन नंबर ये है, सीपीयू नंबर ये है, सब कुछ होता है उसमें उस सर्टिफिकेट में. And this cannot be altered. This cannot be altered. This has to be preserved like that. You seen that certificate by any chance? But you have to make sure that nothing is altered because that will require class to intervene. And then again you see, master and yourself must ensure that approved loading instrument details match with the details in the certificate. The certificate will carry all the details of the instrument, like the CPU number, the reference number of the hardware, etc. That should match. In fact, during a Loadicator examination or Loadicator class survey or a PSC inspection, this certificate is called for and then the details are matched. They should be same as reflected on the instrument. Make, model number, serial number, etc. should match. अच्छा एक बात बताओ, by your experience, if you can recall, एक तो Loadicator है जो वहाँ पड़ा है चीफ ऑफिसर के कैबिन में, I mean sorry ऑफिस में, उसके सारे डिटेल्स मैच हो रहे हैं. Does he have an alternative arrangement?
सर
सर
सीडी होती है
नॉर्मली
ना
दो
उसकी.
दो रहते हैं सर, और एक अदरवाइज एक सॉफ्टवेयर रहता है सीडी जो कि ऑलरेडी वो भी अप्रूव्ड ही रहता है.
हाँ हाँ ठीक है, रहता है, बैकअप है, लेकिन जब ये इंस्पेक्शन हो रहा है, सर्टिफिकेशन हो रहा है, तो एक ही काम आएगा, द वन विच इज अप्रूव्ड बाय द क्लास.
इसमें सर मेन वाला ही चलता है, बाकी की भी रहती है एक पेन ड्राइव में, तो उसको भी अगर इन केस ऑफ इमरजेंसी यूज कर सकते हैं दूसरे पीसी में लगा के.
बट इट इज नॉट अलाउड माइंड यू.
हाँ यस सर.
इट इज नॉट अलाउड, टेक्निकली नॉट अलाउड. और ये किसी के सामने बोल भी मत देना, स्पेशली एक्सटर्नल सर्वेयर मत बोलना, बिकॉज इट इज नॉट रियली अलाउड. In fact, the machine itself, जो Loadicator की बात हो रही है, you cannot use it for any other purpose except stability calculation. You cannot use it. Nothing should be there on the Loadicator instrument. No software should be uploaded. क्योंकि कई बार ऐसा होता है कि लैपटॉप पे चीफ ऑफिसर साहब जो है अपना ये सॉफ्टवेयर लोड कर लेते हैं, बिकॉज ही इज वेरी बिजी, सो ही थिंक्स द ब्रिज वॉच कैन बी यूज्ड फॉर द कैलकुलेशन पर्पस. तो लैपटॉप लेके गए और उसमें Loadicator सॉफ्टवेयर ऑलरेडी है, but uska printout is not applicable. He cannot show. He cannot prove that he has done the calculation correctly because the printout should come only from the approved Loadicator. Okay? Then of course you should have a class approved instrument manual. This is a user manual. This should be also there from the maker of the software. Approval stamp of the classification society should be there on the manual. And if there is change of class, then the approval stamp of the current classification society should be there. Now, obviously, when you talk about test conditions, one thing is simple, that you have a test condition inside the hydrostatic particulars. But I always believe that you should take another condition and use it as a test condition just for your benefit and for your confidence. Use any condition given in the particulars as a test condition. It should match. The result should match. Test condition, ठीक है, match करेगी. But then you see, maybe the Loadicator is prefed with the test condition. So best तरीका is that you select any random condition as used for test. ठीक है जी? Okay, take a small break. We come back and continue. Topic, time, duration, etc. Are you with me? Is it okay?
Yes,
We
sir.
meet again at 12:45. 1245.
Yes.
Okay. somebody had a doubt about recording, also put on the WhatsApp. Can you see this screen? This screen possible to see? Meeting chat screen.
यस सर
यस सर मेरे को तो मैंने लॉग आउट करके कर लिया आ गया है
Because it shows 11:32 recording has started. 11:32. So that is no issue at all. Right? Don't worry. Recording is being done. The only thing we were missing was presenter rights. That also came, but recording is definitely being done. In fact, if you click on these buttons, I don't know if you have the right, the only option is stop recording. So recording is being done. No issues. Right? So let's continue. We were here. So documents, now you can remember 3 we have talked about: class certificate for Loadicator, class approved instrument manual, and class approved Loadicator test condition. So it could be a different booklet altogether where various test conditions could be given with class stamps. But this can also be done, as we have talked about, from a particular stability particulars. We can select any condition, feed in that, and then see their results are matching. The Loadicator results are matching with what is in the approved Loadicator, hydrostatic particulars. Then about requirement, you should be testing it periodically as per the interval specified in the SMS, or generally every quarter by ship staff. Test procedures will include choosing a condition from approved test conditions or the hydrostatic particular, and then entering the exact same data as we talked about in the Loadicator and compare results. But one thing is definite. This is not to be done from a pre-saved file. This data you are entering for test should be done manually. So you enter everything manually and not from a pre-saved data. That is not allowed. You should do it manually. Data entered for test condition should be done manually. And of course, you will have an issue regarding annual testing in presence of class, which is same thing, but now it is in presence of a class surveyor. This could also be required in case the PSC wants it, just for their confirmation that you are using the right software, that your Loadicator is giving the right results. A PSC inspector might also require this test to be done. Normally not, but it's possible. He will be, it is in his purview, he can demand. This is why I said that once you have done the test by ship staff, which is you must keep the printout safe in the Loadicator file. You must keep the printout, remove a printout, sign, stamp it, get it countersigned by master, and preserve it, so that you can always prove that you have also tested. Quarterly you should do it, but even you can, as per your SMS, or you may reduce the interval also. That is no problem. Also, when you're doing it in presence of class surveyor, it is a good idea, although he will also do it, but you're supposed to take a printout of this, stamp it, and also ask the class surveyor to stamp it. You have more authentication. And then of course you retain it in your file. So there is another way by which the Loadicator, the software, can be designed to have an online input, which means directly receive the tank's volumes via level sensors in the online mode. High tech may not be possible in every Loadicator, but it is possible that they have an integration with the online level sensors, so that inputs for tank's volume and specific gravity can be gone straight into the Loadicator. And then he can automatically compute stability and longitudinal strength, but this is high tech, it may not be possible in every Loadicator. Which may not be a regular function, but it is possible. So when we talk of preparation for loading condition, then you should have the facility to create and store new conditions, apart from the one which are already saved. Retrieve and edit stored conditions. Manually enter tank soundings, percentage, volume, and holds, cargo compartments. A part of damage stability criteria should be incorporated into the Loadicator so that you can actually have a view of in case there is a damage. As far as stability is concerned, inputs and then output should include draft, trim, heel, GM, transfers, FSM, CG, etc. Displacement and deadweight calculations in tax stability criteria as per the applicable regulations in tax stability criteria. You are aware of this one, right? In tax stability criteria. And then the generation of reports. Printable. This one is telling you the tax stability criteria. This should be also included in your printout for the Loadicator. There is a stability criteria. What is the GZ curve up to 30 degree? How much should be the area under the curve? Minimum requirements, and this should also match area between 30 and 40 degree from this diagram. This diagram. Which is a GZ curve. So this you can do manually also. You can actually plot it yourself also. But in a Loadicator, this will be exhibited like a printout. On the y-axis, you will have the height and lever, height of GZ, and on the x-axis, you will have angle of heel, various angle of heel. Interval could be maybe lesser, depending on the software, but normally 5 degree, 10 degree, 15 degree like this. And of course, the issue about minimum GZ or maximum GZ and GM fluid, which is obtainable if you draw a perpendicular line from 57.53 degree, extend it and then come across. And reading on the y-axis will tell you how much is the GM fluid, initial GM fluid. So this is something which will be also captured in the Loadicator. We have 1 minute, just give me a minute. Trying to look at our PDF. हो गया. Yeah. Then of course strength calculations. Say again. Sorry.
हाँ नहीं अभी उसने फोन किया था देखते हैं शाम को
You may have special features incorporated in the Loadicator you're using, like this. Violation of load line drafts. You have entered that you are loading in so and so zone. If there is a violation, it will give you a pop-up alarm. Higher stresses than permissible, more than permissible stresses, red light or alarm. So this is also used in the Loadicator to obtain ship's loading, stresses, hull, stresses, etc., shear forces, bending moments. The weights are input by what is called various stations along the ship's length. Weights. It could be in terms of cargo, fuel, ballast, etc. Some additional tasks which may be performed is online loading or unloading, which means that you are integrating it with tanks, individual cargo compartments, so that online, straight away the input is going into the Loadicator. Again, this is not going to be every time. I mean, this will depend on the equipment, the kind of instrument you are using. It can give you an indication of rate of loading because you have input, let us say 10 minutes interval. So he will calculate the difference in cargo quantities for last 10 minutes and then average 1 hour to give you a loading or discharge rate. After all, it is computer, just a computer. Okay. कोई भाई अपना on the move, on the move. Sani, are you in somewhere? No issue with me. Just asking you because you should mute yourself. So you can use it for your advantage, the loading rate, discharge rate, etc. Then you get clear indication for what is happening in last 1 hour or 2 hours. You want current loading rate, then the time should be between 5 to 10 minutes. Because if the time is too less, small fluctuations will give you wrong loading rate. And if your loading rate will fluctuate all the time. If your time is set too high, then the average rate for that time will not be the present rate. So you will have to come to a conclusion. If you are configuring this for loading rate or discharge rate, then how much time interval it should take. Now, there could be some fixed errors in the loading equipment. That is what करण करण सानी म्यूट कर ले अपने आप को. So one more thing you can do is to calculate the constant, which is used in draft survey also. Constant. This can be also done by the Loadicator. So what do? First, you enter all the known weights inside the Loadicator. All the known weights, which will include cargo, bunkers, ballast, lube oil, fresh water, etc. Then go to the constant calculation section of the Loadicator. Can you see the shade screen? 1 minute.
Not it, sir.
Okay. So we are saying how to calculate constant using a Loadicator. So firstly, you enter all known weights like cargo, bunkers, ballast, lube oil, fresh water, etc. in the Loadicator. Now go to the constant calculation section of the Loadicator and enter actual drafts, which are read drafts, which you have actually read. 6-sided. Forward port, forward starboard, aft starboard, midship port, midship starboard, 6-sided. They have to be visual drafts. If you cannot read 6 drafts, which should not be a very difficult thing, then you have to read at least 3 drafts on one side and midship on the other. In this case, you will ensure that list is 0. Enter the drafts. Other drafts, because the list is 0, so if you have entered forward port, let us say you can read only port, forward port is let's say 10 meters, then because there is no list, you can safely enter forward starboard also 10 meters. Although it is not a good thing, but since we are looking at a case where you cannot read 6 drafts, only in that case. Once you have entered the 6 drafts, the next step will be to enter the seawater density. Again, by actually measuring it. At this point of time, you will have to be careful because even a small discrepancy in the density can offset the value of your constant. Because density plays a major part in calculation of the present displacement. So maybe you would like to take 3 checks of density and add a value average value. Once you have done this, then you will get Loadicator. He will calculate the weights, and because it should be 0, if not, then that is the constant. If he's still arriving with some W displacement, then that is the constant. Because you've entered all the values, including the seawater density, it should say 0 because no cargo has been loaded. Then if you have a value, remaining value, ROB of W, that is the constant. And we are going to talk more about it when we actually go and do numericals on draft survey. This is only a Loadicator thing for us to discuss as theory. We will actually do calculations involving draft surveys when we come to the topic of draft survey, in which case the constant will play a major role. You can also do this. You can actually calculate. हाँ जी बोलिए. Karan Sani, I request you kindly mute yourself. 2-3 times it has happened. I've tried to mute you. Your voice is creating disturbance. So just mute yourself. Karan Sani. Okay. You can also use the Loadicator to go a step further. You can use it to calculate, to reach a desired trim, list or draft. You can use that Loadicator itself. Otherwise, actually, if you are aware, you have to use trim tables to get to this conclusion. If your Loadicator is not available or is not functioning, or if that facility is not available, then you have to use trim tables. Loadicator है फिर तो simple है, just use it to get the desired trim, list of draft. If not, then you have to use what is called trim tables from your hydrostatic particulars. You are aware of that, trim tables?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, very good. Some functions which can be done with Loadicator, that is what we are looking at. We are not doing an exercise on it, because actually speaking, if you ask me correctly, every one of us should have a software of Loadicator, and then we should use it to work out, compare results. But of course, this is not possible right now. So this is only, we can only discuss the theory part.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, please.
सर जैसे अभी लोडिंग हो रही है या डिस्चार्जिंग है तो मोस्ट स्पेशली लोडिंग के टाइम पे ये ड्राफ्ट हमारे जो है लोडिकेटर से मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम मैच नहीं करते हैं, तो क्या उस समय ये कांस्टेंट को वगैरह चेक करना चाहिए या चेंज करना चाहिए बिना किसी इन्फॉर्म किए या लाइक मास्टर से कंसल्ट करके?
Saurabh, I did not get the first part of your question. Okay, sometimes in what condition the drafts don't match?
या मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम से लोडिंग के टाइम पे ये विजुअल ड्राफ्ट जो होते थे हमारे ये इससे मैच नहीं होते थे लोडिकेटर में, जैसे हमने फीड किया सब वैल्यूज तो जो टैंक्स के डाटा थे तो विजुअल्स मैच नहीं करते थे, तो उस टाइम पे हमें क्या करना चाहिए?
See, first thing, Saurabh, is to reconfirm that you have actually entered the correct values of drafts. Because let us say you are on a handy size cable carrier, then the summer TPC could be something like 50 tons. So अगर 2 सेंटीमीटर का आपका फर्क आएगा तो it will give you a discrepancy of 100 tons. So first thing is to make sure that you enter the values of your drafts correctly, which is reading the drafts. Maybe by wave action, maybe by C waves or swell, you are not reading correctly. पहली चीज तो ये सर्टन करनी पड़ेगी. Because if the Loadicator is approved, Saurabh, if the Loadicator is approved, has a class stamp, everything has been checked, and it should give you the right results. This is why a test condition is there. This is why I said you should test it out to gain confidence.
ये सर टेस्टिंग वगैरह सब तो टेस्ट में तो रिजल्ट पास आया था, कुछ ऐसा इशू नहीं था, बट जो सामने लोडिकेटर था जिसमें आपका ऑनलाइन था उसके भी ड्राफ्ट मैच नहीं मैच करते थे, फिर सेम जब हम लोग फीड करते थे आपके लोडिकेटर में जो दूसरा था चीफ ऑफिसर के ऑफिस में उससे भी नहीं मैच करते थे और विजुअली वो भी टोटली डिफरेंट था, तो तीनों डिफरेंट रेटिंग्स आते रहते थे.
Well, really speaking, there should be no reason. अगर आपने सारी values correctly input की हैं in an approved Loadicator stamped by the class, it should not happen. And then you say that you did alter some constant to get the result, फिर हो गया मैच.
नहीं सर, वो डिफरेंस से लेके फिर हम लोग जो है उसके हिसाब से पूरा लोडिंग करते रहते थे, जो डिफरेंस आया था वो सेम डिफरेंस हम लोग मेंटेन करते थे, उस हिसाब से जो है एस्टिमेट करते थे.
नहीं, एक बात बताइए सौरभ कि आपने उसको रिजल्ट को मैच कराने के लिए व्हाट आई अंडरस्टैंड इज दैट यू ऑल्टर द वैल्यू ऑफ द कांस्टेंट, ऐसा किया था क्या?
नहीं सर, चीफ ऑफिसर से डिस्कस कर रहे थे तो उन्होंने बोला कि कुछ करते नहीं है, अभी छोड़ दो.
वेल, आई डोंट सी अ रीजन व्हाई इट शुड नॉट मैच. और वैसे भी ड्रास्टिकली मिसमैच नहीं होना चाहिए, थोड़ा बहुत इधर उधर चलता है. Like 10 meters is the value you are getting as a readout on the Loadicator, but actually you are reading 10.05, 10.08. That is okay, that is acceptable. इतना हो सकता है. But it should not happen 10 meters on the Loadicator and you have 10.5 in the visual draft. Then there is something drastically wrong.
Okay,
Something has been input incorrect. Or one thing more, Saurabh, because you're using this, एक चीज definite है. See, constant, and when we do draft survey, you will realize constant is more estimate than anything else.
Okay.
So that can cause an error, the estimation of constant itself.
Okay sir. So तो ये फिर फाइनली अगर
करते रहते हैं ना,
accurate
कांस्टेंट तो बढ़ता और कम होता रहता है. जहाज पे चीजें आती हैं, जहाज पे लोग आते हैं, लोगों का सामान आता है.
हाँ, वो सारा अकाउंटेबल है, अकाउंट लेना चाहिए उसका, एस्टिमेटेड है ना. अभी
तो हमने तो करा था, कांस्टेंट चेंज करा था, हमारा ड्राफ्ट बहुत ड्रास्टिकली चेंज हो रहा था, तो हमने तो कांस्टेंट चेंज करके हमने ड्राफ्ट करेक्ट करे थे अपने।
हाँ, क्योंकि देखो ऐसा है कि अगर आप बात कर रहे हो कि जहाज में लोग आते रहते हैं, ऐसा आपका थ्योरी है ऐसी, कांस्टेंट चेंज होगा, तो फिर भी तो एस्टिमेट ही कर रहे हो। यू विल टेक एन एस्टिमेट ना कि 10 लोग आए हैं तो लेट अस से दे आर कैरिंग अ बैगेज ऑफ 70 किलोज ईच, तो 700 किलो, समथिंग लाइक दैट। इट इज ओनली एन एस्टिमेट।
बस लोगों की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मतलब जैसे प्रोविजन भी आता है, प्रोविजन आता है तो एकदम
अगेन वो
से
एस्टिमेट, वो भी
कुछ अमाउंट
एस्टिमेट।
ऑफ प्रोविजन तो आता है, तो कंज्यूम हो जाता है, ये कंज्यूम होने के बाद खत्म हो जाता है, तो कांस्टेंट चेंज होता रहता है।
राइट, बिल्कुल, ये इशू तो रहेगा, इसमें कोई फिजिकल साइंस नहीं है विच यू कैन कम टू अ कंक्लूजन, ये वेरिएशन तो रहेगा।
सर तो उससे ड्राफ्ट में काफी फर्क पड़ना ही है वैसे भी,
पड़ता
जो
है।
लोडिकेटर और उसमें विजुअल ड्राफ्ट है।
यस, see, one thing is there, this is why I said, when you join the ship as chief officer, not chief officer first time, but you join the ship first time, then you should carry out a draft survey to come to a conclusion कि इस जहाज का constant है कितना, and keep it, file it to be used future also. Now there will be variation in it, but more or less it will be okay because you have yourself worked out the constant. Do not go on history, do not go on the constant which the other chief officer had worked out. Use your inputs to calculate constant and use that in future also. उसमें बहुत वेरिएशन नहीं आएगा.
ओके सर।
That is the only thing I can suggest, because I used to insist on this. Get a constant done. Firstly, to check the loadicator by input all values, come to a conclusion that loadicator is correct if it is matching results with the hydrostatic particulars, and then ask the chief officer, and sometimes I also used to sit down with him to calculate the constant prior the first loading, so that that constant can be used in future also. थोड़ा वेरिएशन आएगा लेकिन मोर और लेस विल बी ओके. ठीक है, दैट्स ओनली वे. So you can use this to calculate how much desired trim or draft you want to achieve by using the loadicator, or if this facility is not available, then you have to use trim tables. One example is here, but this is not generic. This is customized for this particular loadicator. That you go to this button, target healing, target trim, click on it, then come to a conclusion. But this is not with every loadicator. This is an example for this particular loadicator, which is set in this example. There may be some other buttons, there may be some other facilities, but more or less, it is a user-friendly equipment. This is also possible with some loadicators, that you just enter the ullage of a particular tank and it will give you the volume to match with your ullage, because the ullage table is pre-fed. But it is also possible that you may have some discrepancies regarding matchment, because maybe the ullage table is not corrected in the loadicator for trim and list. Mostly the loadicators give the volumes at 0 trim and 0 list. If the ship has got some trim or list during this, you will have a discrepancy in the readouts. So this will be localized problems, localized. You can also have wedge calculations done. ये हो गया आपका टैंकर प्रॉब्लम में wedge calculation, और अभी होना है.
नॉट
Not yet. Okay, no problem. This is just telling you the effect of trim or no effect if alleged port is located at the center. यहाँ पे तो ये actually speaking alleged is varying. यहाँ पे खाली है, यहाँ पे भरा हुआ. This is the wedge. It is the wedge formula. But then if the alleged port is located at center, it may not give you correct data. No change of alleged with the change in trim. And the wedge calculation, which is also part of your tanker problems, like this. This is the wedge. Again, this will be more clear when you do the numerical on this, tanker numerical on wedge calculation. But what we are discussing is that even the Loadicator can be used to do this calculation. So some Loadicators, especially on crude oil tankers, they facilitate the calculation of volume by wedge formula. It is prefed, the wedge formula. You enter the data and it will calculate by wedge formula the volume of the tank right now. Because the wedge formula itself is prefed. This is what the point is. It should be possible to save it or print it. Wedge formula report, it says, for test vessel. Yeah, this about it. Test condition हो गया. Stability data that will give you special features हो गया. So it is never advisable to exceed the stresses 100% more. More than 100% is never advisable because in seaway this could exceed 100. So if you're close, maybe 98%. In seaway, this could go more than 100%. So you should always keep a buffer. Do not exceed more than 95, 96% for old ships. Please be advised and note, which I always agree, ship should be regarded as a girder, a big girder. That's all. उसके बाद compartments हैं वो सब अलग है, but it should be regarded basically as a girder. When you say a girder, this is prone or susceptible to bending moments and shear forces. It should be regarded as a girder. So that you should always keep in mind. Just imagine the ship as a girder. Then your stress forces, etc., are going to bend because of localized stresses. If the weight exceeds in one location or station of the girder, it is going to create localized stresses.
सर
हाँ जी.
तो जैसे अभी तो लोडिकेटर है तो ऑनलाइन स्टेटस पता चलता रहता है कि हमारा शेयरिंग फोर्सेस एंड बेंडिंग मोमेंट कितना है, किस बीम पे कितना है, ये सब पता चलता रहता है. बट पहले जब लोडिकेटर नहीं था तो फिर आप लोग कैसे कैलकुलेट करते थे सर?
Well, you see, criteria तो वही था. तो overall shear force of bending moment should not be more than 100%. ये तो था ही. Localized stresses, which you say now because of, अच्छा सिर्फ लोडिकेटर नहीं है, In capesizer bulk carriers, you now have mounted shear force and bending moment measuring at various locations, which print out or digital readouts. So you can actually read out कि फलानी लोकेशन में इस समय क्या बेंडिंग मोमेंट है. Advancement. You have gone a step further now. But as far as your question is concerned, we had no idea how to do it individual beams, but we knew by calculation, manual also. और फिर हमारे पास लोडिकेटर थे, of course only manual ones, where you input data and then you adjust for getting calculation done, in which you could get कि maximum bending moment, let us say 95% is at what location, ये तो पता लग जाता था. Frame number तो पता था हमें, frame number we could find out by calculation which frame is under the maximum bending moment or maximum shear force, ये तो पता लगता था by calculation. And previously बहुत समय पहले जो लोडिकेटर थे वो थे just by playing around. We used to have weights to be transferred on a scale and then take analog readouts. Long way has come. अब तो एमॉस बिन वाले हैं, विंडोज बेस्ड है लोडिकेटर. So if you say how you used to do it, the only way was, and you see, अगर आप देखो तो previous history भी तो है lost ships की, because of incorrect loading, incorrect shearing forces, bending moments, localized stresses, तभी तो lost थे इतने सारे ships.
Yes, sir.
So that was the improvement made. Why do you think this regulation came, Solar Sector 12 Regulation 11, to have necessarily a loadicator on board? For this reason, it was recognized that a loadicator will facilitate safety. Anyway, things do evolve, things do take better shape. But yes, it was not so good in olden times. We used to assume a lot of things. अभी भी तो आप GPS वगैरह यूज करते हो, एक्डिस यूज करते हो for navigation. Previous days there was no such system, only sites. That I have also done that. Morning 0800 you take a long macron, then you wait, and afternoon in the sense near Marpas you take a lat by Marpas, make a running fix, work backwards and you get a 0800 position, and then you apply your run and you get your 12 o'clock position, and that Marpas used to give a latitude. वो तो अभी भी हो रहा, I mean हुआ है as late as I can recall, somewhere around 87. Yes, we used to do that. And then also ex-meridian, which are terms which you are very familiar with because navigation is a part of your syllabus. I'm sure I'm not talking Greek, you clearly follow it. So those are things we used to do. पर आज की तारीख में भी ask me, people are aversive, कहते हैं हमारे पास है सब कुछ है ना, GPS है, ECDIS है, why should we do it? ठीक है, that is your argument. But definitely all these things were used, and the best site was the star site because it used to give you a fix. No run applied, nothing. Take 3 or 4 stars which are placed at 90 degree or 120 degree at an angle, their azimuths, and you get a cross. That is your fix, star site. For which reason a topic in your syllabus which says star suitable for site was actually done on board. We used to calculate, I remember as cadets before the chief officer used to come on bridge at 0400, the star suitable for site was already there, calculated and on the chart table, so that he comes and sees that and says, okay, let's begin at 5:30 or something. वो actually किया है, अब आज की तारीख में सब obsolete है. Which is again something I advocate. Okay, ठीक है यार, वो टाइम पुराना था, उस समय जरूरत थी, आज जरूरत नहीं है. Just for the sake of it, we should not do. अगर आपके पास सारे इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हैं वर्किंग कंडीशन में, why should you calculate star side? I don't know. But if you actually say, I think you can correct me. I think I have got a feedback that some vetting companies do require this to be tabulated. They do require
Yes.
star set to be taken.
Yes, sir.
Wetting inspections में है शायद requirement.
Yes.
Alternative arrangements. तो है, तो उसके लिए करना पड़ेगा. पर वो भी मुझे फीडबैक मिला है फ्रॉम कैंडिडेट सपोज कि साहब वो तो हम ऐसे मैनिपुलेट करके निकाल के रख देते हैं. You are actually supposed to do a radar plot also on the plotting sheet using WOA triangle.
Yes, sir.
You're actually supposed to do it and preserve it for vetting and TSC inspections, etc. Then, this is what we were talking about, fitted with dynamometers at various stations, which show instantaneous dynamic stresses in seaway. Now, this is okay, instantaneous dynamic stresses in seaway, but actually in calm waters, their reading should match with the Loadicator on the same stations. This is possible. It is frequently used, extensively used on capesizes because their localized stresses vary in seaway. So they fit dynamometers at various stations which show instantaneous dynamic stresses. Not so long ago, I actually met an ASM candidate who was doing masters. He was already a chief officer. We had a topic to be discussed in that class, and he had worked on such a ship with fitted dynamometers to give instantaneous dynamic stresses. He was working on a capesizer. तो ये भी एक तरीका है, good one है, good तरीका, good system. If you have it, you're more safe because now everything is under your control. So, what is the functional requirement of a Loadicator? Firstly, the calculation program, which will present parameters at each loading condition. So, the vessel is assisted in determining whether the ship is loaded within approval limits. Now, when you talk of parameters, this will involve deadweight data, lightship data, trim, draft marks, and perpendiculars. Summary of loading condition, displacement, VCG, LCG, etc. This is functional requirement. All this should be in the output of the Loadicator. Compliance with the stability criteria, listing of calculated stability criteria. These are the functional requirements, which you can easily list out अगर ऐसा पूछा जाएगा because you are a student of naval arc. So everything involved for calculation of stability you can list out should be present in the Loadicator. If any loading limitations are not complied with or exceeded, this should. Functional requirement is that it should give a clear warning on the screen and hard copy printout. The Loadicator, I'm sorry I did not mention it, no harm mentioning now, is also very effective and used for carrying out ballast water exchange. You know how ballast water exchange में Loadicator use होगा?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See,
The
you got
ballast
a ballast
water exchange can be done by the flow through method and other methods, but
method.
in that case we can check the stability criteria
Yeah. See what?
using the Loadicator. But nowadays, sir, we are using BWTS system, so it is effective in loading and discharging operation only.
ठीक है. But you see what you can do कि आपने जो टैंक सिलेक्ट किया है फॉर कैरिंग आउट द बैलेंस वाटर एक्सचेंज उसको आप खाली करो 90% खाली कर दो और उसके ऑपोजिट वाला कर दो अकॉर्डिंग टू द बैलेंस वाटर मैनेजमेंट प्लान. यू नो डाइवर्स नॉर्मली डायगोनल होता है, फिर उसको खाली करो एंड देन सी व्हाट इज योर प्रिंट आउट सेइंग और व्हाट इज योर रिजल्ट सेइंग, व्हाट इज द एसएपीएम. That way you can use the Loadicator for carrying out ballast water exchange also. Please remember, ballast water exchange has led to accidents, wrong calculations, especially in the times when ballast water exchange plan was not in force, ballast water management plan was not in force. It used to lead to many accidents. So this can also be used, Loadicator can be used for BW exchange also. When we talk about printouts, the date time of calculation should be in this hard copy printout also. Identification of the program being used, units of measurement, tons hai, long tons hai, meter cube hai, anything that should also be identified, and the acceptable tolerance levels. Deviation from these levels should be with the consultation with the class which is your ship is under. Any satisfactory explanation not available, there will be no excuse for exceeding tolerance level. So by Loadicator calculations, it is a good idea to keep SFBM close to, but less than 100%. Close to because you are not going to compromise on cargo loading capacity. You can be close to, but you have to keep it under 100%. Because if you are going close to 100% over a longer period of time, multiple voyages, then it can develop cracks. The structure can develop cracks over a period of time. So, which will talk about hull structural failure, which is also we have discussed as a cause for damage to bulk carriers. Oil tankers are now required to comply with damage stability, and this is now required by MARPOL, gas tankers by IGC. And these are the resolution numbers which talk about calculation of damage stability criteria by MARPOL, IBC and IGC. These are the resolution numbers. In fact, this is important. You should know this because you are going to be chief officers. This is to be complied with definitely by first special survey after 1st January 16. All tankers need to have Loadicators that can calculate damage stability. This is a requirement. It has to be complied with. And of course, we have talked about online loading and unloading rates, where you got a nexus by conveyor belts of tanks. Input is going straight to the Loadicator. So again, you can prefix to see how much should be loading rate by time intervals.
सर एक बात पूछनी थी।
हाँ जी बोलिए।
तो स्टार्टिंग में जब आपने स्टार्ट किया था लोडिकेटर का, आपने बोला था चैप्टर 12 और रेगुलेशन 11 के अकॉर्डिंग ये कंपलसरी है बल्क कैरियर पे।
ओके।
उसके बाद टैंकर का बताया था सर, ये बाकी रिमेनिंग वेसल्स पे कब से कंपलसरी है?
See, the reason why bulk carriers and tankers were taken into account was because different codes apply. बाकी अगर let us say suppose you are on a container vessel, you do have a Loadicator there also.
Yes sir.
तो उसको भी comply करोगे? Obviously, each ship will require a Loadicator to assist the master. It will require a Loadicator.
मतलब ऐसा कंटेनर्स और रोरो में भी कंपल्शन है सर?
Yes, yes.
तो मतलब कौन सी रेगुलेशन के अकॉर्डिंग सर? ये तो 12 तो ये बल्क कैरियर के रिगार्डिंग बोल रही थी ना सर?
See, Amit Kumar, the reason bulk carriers were addressed was because it was cited, it was realized that a lot of bulk carriers are being lost because of improper loading. So, to assist the ship staff for correct loading and not to exceed stresses, Loadicator was insisted upon. Chapter 12 is enhanced safety measures for bulk carriers.
हाँ सर, वो तो एग्री कर रहा हूँ मैं सर आपसे। सर फिर वो कहाँ पे इन्होंने कंटेनर, बाद में कुछ अमेंडमेंट या कुछ आया होगा ना इनका नोटिस की इट इज एप्लीकेबल फॉर अदर कंटेनर और ड्राई वेसल्स आल्सो, मैंडेटरी है ऐसा कुछ?
Yeah, it is applicable. I can find out and tell you which resolution number talks about it. Right now, not at hand, but I can find out. अगर आप ये पूछ रहे हैं कौन सा रेजोल्यूशन नंबर है, I can find out.
ठीक है सर।
No issue. ठीक है।
ठीक।
चलो ये हो जाएगा लोडिंग रेट्स वगैरह के लिए, calculating constants which also we saw. Now tell me, have you got anything to be raised for this topic? Anything? Since somebody was asking about other vessels being involved for Loadicator instruments, have a look at this. Who was asking this question? Amit, can you see the shared screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, have a look at this. Loading instrument, which we have already seen, could be analog or digital. Now, operational manual, ये भी हो गया. Single point loading instrument, not acceptable, single point. In addition, loading in manual, loading instrument, categories to have this is for all class vessels. Seagoing ships 65 meter in length and above. And they have divided the ships like this. Category 1 ships, ships with large deck openings. Combined stresses due to vertical, horizontal, hull girder bending. Chemical tanker, gas tankers. Category 2, now 1 minute. Ships liable to carry non-homogeneous loading, where cargo and of ballast may be unevenly distributed. Ships less than 120 meter length, design tanks taken into account. Category 2 ships, ships with arrangements giving possible variation in distribution of cargo. Ballast, cargo and ballast, example passenger vessel. सब में चाहिए लोडिकेटर. Ships on regular and fixed trading patterns, to come to a conclusion, large deck areas may be for a container vessel. So, broadly speaking, all types of ships are covered. But why we started the discussion with bulk areas is because there was an issue about bulk areas being lost at sea due to non-compatible loading. So bulk area was identified. Special chapter 12 was added into SOLAS. That is the reason we started discussion with bulk areas. And then of course tankers, because amendments have been made to MARPOL, IBC and IGC. That was the reason. But all ships will require, whether homogeneous cargo, non-homogeneous cargo, large deck area, passenger ships, सब में चाहिए. Anything else for time being you want to raise? We are open 24/7. Or maybe if you recollect something, you can ask me in next class. मेरे ख्याल से आज का तो हो गया. I don't have another class with you. I need to go to phase 2. Okay, you can respond to this one. Current, why are you saying sorry? अच्छा, आपका microphone muted नहीं था. It's okay, I understand. Okay, candidates, you may have your lunch, go to the next class. I got another class, so we'll meet again next class whenever designed as per timetable. Okay.